Is it recording? Good afternoon. I am super excited, not only because it's my favorite day of the week, which is Friday, but because I have the pleasure of speaking with Command Sergeant Major retired Pamela Williams. Command Sergeant Major is a Texas native born in Brenham, Texas, home of Bluebell ice cream. Her MOS is a 92 Alpha. She served in several leadership positions: squad leader, platoon leader, first sergeant, and nominative command sergeant major. Some of her awards include Legion of Merit, Order of St. Martin, and Special Skills Badge, including Army Recruiting Badge and the Army Staff Identification Badge and Combat Action Badge. She has served in overseas assignments in Germany and Korea, deployed to Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Her education includes Masters of Education and Organizational Leadership and a Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice. And we're about to have a conversation about some soldier-related issues. I'm going to also ask her how she has dealt with issues in her own career as well. Again, let's welcome Command Sergeant Major retired Pamela Williams. Afternoon, Sergeant Major.
Good morning or afternoon, wherever you may be. How are you? And thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share with you and those that may be listening.
Well, I am super excited to have this conversation, and I apologize about all the technical difficulties we had this morning. But I would like to start off with a question and then get it going.
All righty, let's do it.
Okay. So how vital is delegation for mission essential tasks, for example, executing a field problem? And describe a situation where you found yourself working with someone who displayed difficulties delegating some task or the specific task and how you handle that.
Okay, so I truly believe that delegation cannot be done by one person or one leader because it could be detrimental to the organization. And if one tries to do or a task such as a field exercise on their own, we know that could be very cumbersome because a field exercise actually starts prior to the field, meaning, the planning, you got your operations, you got, the G4, all of those things that make the field exercise a success. And if a commander wants to have a successful field exercise, he or she should ensure that they are not holding on to not delegating tasks in order to have a successful field exercise. And one way that I may have encountered or worked with someone who displayed delegating tasks, and I think the only way to do that is to communicate with that individual leader, provided you have access to the leader like that, to ask questions, not in a derogatory manner, but just a way to help the organization. It's always about making the organization better. So in my case, it would be talking with that leader who may be not delegating tasks in order to have a successful field exercise. So I think communication plays a big role in the delegate, in a leader who may not be delegating mission essential tasks.
So as a soldier, if you encounter that leader who is having difficulties delegating, how would that communication look like? Would that be in the form of an email? Would it be third party? Or could you give some encouraging words? Say that soldier doesn't have the courage to have that uncomfortable conversation.
Okay, so when you talk about soldier, and I'd imagine maybe a soldier who may be on a detail in support of the field exercise for that organization. And depending on what mission essential tasks that leader, at that level for the soldier may not be delegating, or, I mean, with me, it's just all about communication. And I just, if we were to talk about a leader at the highest level that's, really in charge of that field training exercise, the soldier at that level talking to the commander, let's just say for an example, a soldier and a commander and a soldier don't agree with something in a field exercise. There's a lot of leaders in between that commander and that soldier. So I think, again, it's just communication. And from a soldier standpoint, understanding the tactfulness behind even asking a question about what may be not being delegated for that field training exercise.
So with that being said, I would like to transition into leadership, and not in leadership from the person in charge, but from the subordinates standpoint. So we always focus on toxic leadership, but we really never focus on toxic subordinates. And I think a lot of people may not be aware that they give their leadership a hard time in trying to accomplish mission tasks. Can you touch a little bit on toxic subordinates?
I think that sometimes as leaders, we have to be willing to develop even our toxic soldiers. But I think it's more like a strategy on how you do that, because in diversity uh, in the army or in the military, we all come from different walks of life, and I think it's important to have an understanding, and that's where the army values always come in to play. So I think having an understanding, there are times when subordinate soldiers may be having an issue. So I think it's normally a discussion in private, when that subordinate may be acting out in a toxic manner. And you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared for those situations that may arise. Because a lot of times it could just be something's going on with that soldier. And if there's not the communication skills and the listening skills, now that you can make a situation worse. So I think having that communication and listening skills from a leader standpoint, when you're dealing with a soldier who may be toxic, in this case, as the example that you're giving me as a toxic subordinate, I think leaders have to be prepared for encounters that they may have with soldiers, and understand through counseling and writing that counseling down so that you can always go back and follow with that soldier. Because in the end, I think when we counsel, it's always to improve something. So you always want to go back to follow up to see if what you may have come up with that soldier to fix the issue, you can follow back up and see how that soldier may be progressing. And then again, if you've done your part as far as counseling and provided the necessary resources and tools for the soldier in that position, then the army just may not be for that particular soldier. And it's okay, because not everybody should be in the army. And it's okay, because there are so many other things you can do outside of the army. But I truly believe that having that discussion, being prepared as a leader, and counseling that soldier in writing to follow up and help to improve those situations is how it should play out.
And what would be your assessment of Army leaders' ability to take care of their soldiers, whether that be at the unit, company, brigade, battalion, or a higher echelon?
Okay, my assessment of leaders, of army leaders having the ability to take, I think it's very high. I think that as leaders, with all of the professional and personal development that we have in the army to help leaders to be able to take care of soldiers, I think they truly have that ability. Now, however, other factors may lead them down the wrong road or the wrong path of performing those duty, due to, you know, so many factors in life that could um, have the
Sergeant
effect.
Major, could you give an example of a factor that would cause a soldier to um,
A leader,
inhibit their ability to take care of a soldier or to take care of their squad or platoon?
like a leader to take care of his or her soldiers.
Roger that, Sergeant Major.
say probably not being prepared to perform at the level that they are holding. And I say that because even when I served in the military a year ago, and I don't know if it's changed or, the accession rate could be a little bit higher, but the lack thereof of non-commissioned officers, and you're growing your force faster. So the right skill sets and experience may not be developed, and they could be in a position of higher authority that they may not just be ready for. And that involves leaders, again, getting the soldiers those necessary training that they need to be successful in those positions. So that's one way that I could think of a leader's ability of not being able to take care of soldiers, given a factor of how the military or the Army may be growing in shortages in different skill sets or skill levels, should I say.
And what would be your opinion or perspective on that soldier who has the inability to take care of their squad, platoon, or soldier, state that they're just too busy?
Well, there's really no such thing as being too busy, but I would just tell you that everybody has a leader. So if we as leaders are doing our jobs, then we will be able to pick up on, and not all instances. I mean, I can't say that we can see everything, but everybody has a leader. So just like soldiers should be counseled by their non-commissioned officers, leaders should also be counseled by their superiors, or, so in instances like that, somebody should be able to see where someone may be lacking if we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing.
And as a leader, what would be some of the tasks that would be required to be a good leader,
Oh, well, there's so many.
besides just the regular Army doctrine? Um, I think a lot of people don't understand or can't correlate the difference between being a manager and then being a leader. And in my opinion, I think there's a difference. So if you could just touch on the difference of just managing soldiers versus being a leader of soldiers.
Well, being a manager and being a leader, it is different because leaders are with the soldiers. If you ask a soldier to do something as a leader, you should be able to do what you ask that soldier to do. And if you can't do what you're asking that soldier to do, you should be able to guide that soldier in the right direction with resources and tools to do what you have asked them to do. So I truly believe that as a leader, you have to be prepared and you have to be willing to get down there and do what you ask your soldiers to do.
I concur, Sergeant Major.
And being a manager, I can sit behind the desk and point fingers and point you in the right direction. But if I've never walked that direction and I'm telling you to do it, and I have no idea what could possibly happen because I didn't get from behind my desk and kind of go ahead or, go before, meaning like not actually doing it, but figuring out what possibly could come up in that particular task that I may be asking you to do, especially if it's something that is new. So there is a difference between managing and actually leading. Leading, when you're leading, you're out front. When you're managing, you're just telling somebody to do something that you probably wouldn't do yourself.
So what advice would you give to a soldier who is encountering someone who is just managing soldiers? For example, you may have a platoon leader who is just managing soldiers. What advice would you give to a soldier who may want to try to tackle that issue with that platoon leader?
When you say soldier and platoon leader, you got to give me, a rank. Like, because if you're a platoon leader, I'm imagining that you're either a first lieutenant or a second lieutenant. So you probably have about less than 2 years maybe in the Army, or a little bit more. And a soldier at what level? Like the platoon sergeant? Because there's somebody in between that platoon leader and that soldier. If it's a private specialist, I don't, you know, that's going to be able to help that gap, help them to understand that gap when it comes to leadership.
Okay, so I'll give an example from the staff sergeant perspective. So I am a staff sergeant, and I have an OIC who is a manager, and I want to have an uncomfortable conversation because it's starting to take a toll not on me, but I'm having trouble leading my soldiers because my soldiers see the OIC just giving out orders but not participating in those orders.
Okay, so in that case, there's probably a first sergeant in the company that that staff sergeant can go to. Now, is the staff sergeant a platoon sergeant?
Sergeant Major.
And then me personally as a leader, sometimes I might go a little bit deep, but I try to look at the whole picture. Like if that staff sergeant is having problems with that platoon leader, I'm going to look in to see how long has that staff sergeant been around? Like how long have they been in the Army? How long have they been a staff sergeant? I want to be able to go backwards and just kind of look at the development to see where, if maybe that staff sergeant, because normally platoon sergeants, unless something has changed, when I was in the Army or come up in the Army, platoon sergeants were sergeant first class billets or positions, according to the MTO, which is a table organization and equipment of personnel. So it could be, again, going back to, I think what I said earlier is that the development just may not be there because the staff sergeant may not quite understand what their role is. And if that isn't the case, hopefully that staff sergeant has a mentor or somebody that they can, go to that they trust to communicate and ask those questions about how to deal with certain leaders and their leadership style. To include that first sergeant should be there. I mean, it should be that trust that staff sergeant could go to one of the leaders in the organization without getting reprimanded or scolded and receive some development in order to improve their skill sets and even working with that platoon leader.
I think that's some really good advice. So as that staff sergeant, what are some things that I can do to make sure that I have a clear perspective? Because again, like you said, everyone has a boss, and sometimes that the boss receives information that the staff sergeant is not tracking or aware of, and the OIC could just be passing down information that they've received. So what are some things or some actions that staff sergeant could take to try to understand the whole picture of the mission?
Okay, so one thing I would say is that the platoon leader should counsel the staff sergeant, not in a negative way, but just that initial counseling in order for the two of them, whether it's male or female, male, female, to have that understanding, because you are a command team. And I would always say that, most people tend to look at a command team as that company commander and that first sergeant and so forth up the ranks. But I look at that lowest level, that platoon leader and that platoon sergeant. You are a command team of the soldiers who you have been entrusted, to provide health care and welfare for. So I truly believe that initial contact between that platoon sergeant and that platoon leader is going to set both of them up for success within their platoon. And I think that right there gives that platoon sergeant an opportunity to ask those questions during that session. And that trust has to start right there. It has to build over time. So counseling, communicating, and the platoon sergeant as well, communicating with the platoon leader. I mean, I've seen some things in my military career, when it came to that communication with platoon sergeant and a platoon leader, where they just didn't have that gel that put them together. And it always involved some type of um, intermediate action or somebody getting in between to try to figure out what the problem was. And I will tell you that almost 99.9% of the time, it's all about communication and listening skills. And when you figure that out, an organization can run so smooth at any level.
So whose responsibility would be for initiating that line of communication?
Well, it could be both. It doesn't necessarily fall on just one individual, because again, diversity in the military, in life, outside of the military, everybody has different walks of life. And some people uh, just don't have that able to communicate in the manner that they should. So it involves both. So I think they got to come together both ways. So if I'm telling you that you should be counseled by that platoon leader, and according to the Army and the counseling that you should be, I don't think you would be wrong by going to that platoon leader, or in this case, any leader, in asking for that counseling. So that way you have a better understanding of what that leader is asking you to do, or asking, of you. Because the only way to know is by them communicating with you. And if there's no communication, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to know what someone is expecting of you.
I think that's well said, and I'm going to go ahead and segue into diversity. Um, in your opinion, what is diversity? And do you think, or what is your opinion of those who say, well, you only got that job or promotion because of inclusion and or diversity? And do you feel like your gender or skin tone helped or hindered you throughout your career?
Okay, when I think of diversity, I think of inclusion. And I say inclusion for all people. It doesn't matter the age, the background, the color of your skin, what you look like, where you come from. I think diversity to me means everybody should be included. And for those individuals, leaders in most cases, that may say, oh, you got promoted because or whatever the case may be. I think it's a matter of lack of education. And then it also could be because they didn't get the job or the promotion. And it really has nothing to do with you in some cases. It has nothing to do with you as an individual person, what's on the outside of you. And as far as, do I believe that my gender or skin tone hindered me from career? I can't say that because I was never told that, and a lot of times we tend to use that. But this is what I think, and this is how I look at the situation. I look at it like everybody has skills and talents. And it's good. It's a good thing because we're not the same. Some people have strengths in areas and some people have weaknesses in areas. But a lot of times what I find is that, people try to put their biases on others, and instead of us building each other up and, you helping me with my weaknesses and me helping you with your weaknesses, and, the strengths and the weaknesses coming together, we tend to want to tear people down, or either because I don't have it or because you don't have it. And that's where all this gender and diversity and all that comes. But what it really boils down to is, it's really not the person on the outside. It's really what's inside of you that people want. It's what's in you that makes you unique and who you are, whether it be your character, your knowledge, your skills. That's what I find a lot of times that people will try to play on, to try to make you feel insecure, doubt yourself, or whatever. because it's what's inside of you that people really can't get to.
So do you feel like it helped or hindered, or did you just never paid attention to that during your career?
Paid attention to, and like I said in the beginning, I think I said that I don't think my gender or my skin tone helped or hindered my career. Because me personally, I believe I did what I was supposed to do, which was be a servant, take care of soldiers, take care of families, do my job, develop soldiers, develop non-commissioned officers. That is what I did.
That's outstanding, Sergeant Major.
And I don't
Well,
think doing your job has anything to do with the color of your skin or your gender.
what are your thoughts on the catchphrase "perception is your reality"? We hear that a lot in the Army. And do you think that an individual can change how others perceive them?
Well, I don't agree with the term perception is reality because I truly believe that we're all people. And as people, we don't always get up on the right side of the bed every day and do it all right because we're human and we have bad days. We have not so good days. So I don't believe that, you know, the perception is your reality because of that. And of course, um, you can change the way people view you just by your actions and the things that you do for the good of others, like being a servant and being positive. Because again, we all have bad days, but I don't think we should look down on someone or perceive somebody to be of that way because they had a bad day.
That's good advice, Sergeant Major. Now moving on to something a little bit lighter. What are some activities junior leaders can do to prepare for the first sergeant role? And how do soldiers become a first sergeant?
First of all, I think junior soldiers or leaders can prepare by being, knowing, and doing the best they can in the current position that they are. And I say that because a lot of times we miss out on developmental skills when we try to grow and move too fast, because it's kind of hard to be a platoon sergeant reaching down to squad leaders if you've never been a squad leader. And it just goes up, if you're trying to be a first sergeant and you've never been a platoon sergeant or a squad leader, it's kind of hard to lead soldiers because that's exactly what a first sergeant does. A first sergeant is responsible for the health and welfare of soldiers. And if you never fulfill those roles to get you to that position, it might be a little bit challenging to do the job effectively if you don't quite understand the roles underneath you. So
Would your advice be to a soldier to follow their career map, or how could they develop that skill set?
absolutely, that's exactly why the career map is there to help in the developmental skills of those soldiers. And there is so much on that career map as it relates to personal and professional development. Um, those necessary skill sets that you need. I wish I would have had one in front of me right now just to kind of, go over that map, career map, maybe for my MOS, because that was the best MOS in the Army.
I disagree, Sergeant Major, but we won't talk about that.
That should be like something a soldier carries on their phone, to look at their career map when they're talking about hitting those marks and doing those things. But I'm not saying that you're limited to just that career map, because there are things that you can do outside to keep yourself developed, like education. And I think all of that is on the career map. So absolutely, if a soldier follows their career map and meet those marks, I think they will be setting themselves up to be a first sergeant and beyond. But just don't jump it, because there are a lot of people, I want to be a first sergeant, I want to be a first sergeant. But when you get there, it's not just being called first sergeant, it's called work. And it's a lot of work. And I don't think it has changed much since I retired from the military. But being a first sergeant is work. So you just want to make sure you're prepared when you get there.
So, from your experience, from what you've seen throughout your career, why do some people stay stagnant at the sergeant first class level or rank?
Well, it could be a number of things. It could be just don't have it. And I know now I'm so outdated because the promotion system has totally changed from when I was in. But just from what I know, it could be a number of reasons. I mean, some people are just comfortable where they are. Some people won't reach out and, get those schools and go on those assignments, those hard and challenging assignments that they are asked to do, maybe not deploying, education. So there's so many factors to why someone would be stagnant as a sergeant first class. But even now, so, with the promotion system and NCOERs and how that plays a role in being promoted could have a factor in why they stay stagnant. Some people are just happy where they are. And you got to know that that's not the way the military or the Army is going. I mean, if you don't want to progress, it's like, why do you want to be? I mean, I understand it's a paycheck, but if you're not growing, you're holding somebody else up from wanting to grow. And there are a lot of people out there that want to grow.
I hope some sergeant first classes out there listening. So now I want to talk about a topic that um, I recently read an article from a female captain about the ACFT. And I would like to I want to know your perspective on the ACFT. But first, I want to read a little caption from her article that she wrote. And I'm going to start. I recently read an article by Captain Grice. I hope I'm saying her name right. And I'm going to quote her. As the Army's first female infantry officer, I have long awaited the elimination of a gender-based fitness test. The dramatically lower female standards of the old Army physical fitness test, the APFT, not only jeopardize mission readiness in combat units, but also reinforce the false notion that women are categorically incapable of performing the same job as men. The new Army Combat Fitness Test, the ACFT, promised to alleviate these issues by finally assessing women on the same fitness scale as men and setting minimum physical standards based on branch requirements than gender. What would be your perspective on her viewpoint of the new Army physical fitness test?
Well, I'm not going to take my perspective mainly on Captain Grice, but I will say this about the Army Combat Fitness Test. It's out there, but I personally don't believe that it makes you a better soldier or a leader.
Can you touch on that? Because I think a lot of people truly don't understand how.
Because having served, in the Army over 31 years, me personally, there was no Army Combat Fitness Test when I served for over 31 years. It came probably like the last year or so that I was, in preparation to retire. But I did a lot of great things in my military career, and I understand, evolving over time. I got that. But when I never had saw this article until you just read it, or. So if if that's the case, I mean, I would wonder, so like, so if females can outperform males on the Army combat fitness test, because that is the case. But you know what, let me go back to this. So in saying that, you know, when I was in the military or the Army, we took the Army physical fitness test for years. You know, that's all I knew in the Army. And I think that I think I was a great soldier. You know, having made it to the nominative level as a command sergeant major to be able to command a expeditionary sustainment command, I think I was a phenomenal, great soldier. And I took the Army physical fitness test. So does that mean all of the things that I did don't count? And then let's look at it from a different standpoint. You know, so if females outperform males on the Army combat fitness test, which I'm sure there are some that are outperforming males on this test, what does that say about our male soldiers? Are they now less effective?
No one's really talking about that. They're just more focused on females not being able to meet the standard.
What standard?
The standard for the deadlift is 160, and a lot of females are not able to do a single leg tuck. And then the run time is 21 minutes.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that piece, and that's absolutely correct. A lot of females aren't, and they're never good. I mean, I don't want to say never, because with training and all that, you could. Um, but some of them may not be able to do it because body proportion, size. I mean, there's a lot of factors in that. And if I'm not mistaken, um, the Army Combat Fitness Test still is not in full rotation because there are some questions about it's questionable. It's questionable. But at the bottom line, I just don't think it makes you a better soldier. It's out there. Um, I don't see where it makes you a better soldier or a leader because you can take the Army Combat Fitness Test.
Cool, Sergeant Major. So now I'm going to ask some personal questions, and then we're going to uh, close it out. So, what or was there a career setback you faced, which you later realized was an advantage? And if yes, how did you navigate, and what was the outcome?
Whoa. Let me see. Let me think about that one. I wouldn't say career setback. I mean, there was a time in my military career that I wanted to be a career. I mean, I wanted to be a warrant officer, and I really wanted to be a warrant officer. And I did the packet. Thought I had a very good. I thought I had a good chance of being selected. I was looked at twice. I was not selected, and then I was selected for Army recruiter. Didn't want to do it, but I did it. But you know, I believe that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, and it's for the good of the individual, whether you know it's perceived to be bad, good, or indifferent. Because I went on to um, fulfill my role as the Army recruiter, of which I didn't want to do it. Um, but it was always, you know, and I like health and fitness. And as a recruiter, as an Army recruiter, I would always either run into people that I would talk to, you know, out in the community, or that would come into the recruiting station that always needed help with maintaining the standard to either join the Army. Well, not to either, but to join the Army, meaning they didn't meet the height and weight, and they really wanted to. So I would take out time after my duties as a recruiter, as an Army recruiter, um, and help them. And I never could understand that, you know, I would ask the question to myself at times, like, why me? Why do I always get these people, that need help in, meeting the standard as it relates to losing the weight. Um, and it didn't dawn on me till years later, and even after I retired, I would kind of sit back and wonder why I do what I do today, which is, help people in their nutrition and fitness goals. Um, that I believe I was being prepared for something, and that's why I say everything happens for a reason. We may not understand it, but it's all about being a servant and helping people, and that's just what I like to do, or love to do, should I say. So I really don't think it was a setback, when I talk about being an Army recruiter, and that's not what I wanted to do. I think it helped me, even not just helping people and doing what I do today, but it also helped me in my military career, because I believe that the Army can look at things and be like, oh, okay, this individual, and it's even true today, I believe, that where you can come outside of your MOS or military occupational skill, go out and do something else, and then come back in and fall right back in and continue the mission, with your military occupational skill, with your job that you do in the Army, even when they ask you to do something different.
Can you give a couple of examples of organizational challenges that you faced in the past and how you were able to handle that?
Organizational challenges. Oh man, over 31 years. Let me pick one. No, not kidding. Not serious. I've had some challenges, but I don't know, the way I look at it, and one that I had was with a commander. And I really can't say it was a challenge. It was, again, just that communication and lack thereof, of trust. But not trust on my part, not that I didn't trust the commander. It's just, in the military, when you have bad experiences, sometimes you tend to hold on to those bad experiences, and then and it may bleed over into relationships that you have with others, and that's not a good thing, but it happens. And that was a challenge that I had in one of the organizations that I served in, and it was really a tough situation to be in, because at that time I was filling a command sergeant major billet. So it was tough, but I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of praying. But one thing that got me through that rough time was the soldiers, was knowing that, I was inspiring soldiers, and I had to be that example, because you lead through example, because not every day is going to be a good day, and you go through tough times and challenges. I think that's where you grow the most. That's where you grow the most. So I think what got me through it was, again, prayer, and knowing that it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me, and I had to do what I was doing for the soldiers. And I did have a communication with my commander, and over time it was all ironed out. But there are just some things you can't forget. But I think when it's all said and done, having went to the commander and just kind of sat down and talked with him, so that we both had a better understanding, it made things better. So I think having that communication skill set and being able to listen can help you when you're in those challenging situations. And then knowing who you are as a leader. So that would be my advice, knowing who you are.
What would you do? What would you do differently from a professional standpoint if you could go back in time? Is there
You know,
anything, one thing that you would do different to change the your trajectory?
I don't think I would. And I say that because I think every experience that you go through makes you who you are. You know, even when I went through, the challenge or what I called a really horrible time, with the commander, I think I could have handled that in so many different ways. But in the end, I'm glad that it happened and I was able to overcome it because I think it just made me a better leader. It made me, um, it helped me to be able to help develop other people that may be going through some of the same, that may be going or have went through some of the same challenges that I did. So I don't think I would change much about my upbringing in the Army because I think it made me who I am. And I think every encounter does, makes you who you are. And most of the time, it's a better person.
What challenges do you see the NCO facing in the future besides the ACFT?
I think they'll overcome it. I mean, it's just like everything we do in the Army, or over time, leaders and soldiers will figure it all out together. Um, so, yeah, the ACFT might be out there, but yeah, I got it. So, challenges that NCOs may face in the future, I don't know. You know, I'm sure not much has changed in a year. Um, but I might say, um, let me see here, just staying connected, Um, I don't know the pandemic. I mean, I'm not in the military right now, so I mean, I could say that might be a challenge to NCOs facing in the future. Or yeah, yeah, I can't. I don't even know what challenges I see NCOs facing in the future. I guess because I'm not there.
That's totally understandable. What are some things or activities soldiers can do to improve their careers? I think a lot of people may not be aware that they have access to a career map or just activities or professional development. Because I know we all have different experiences and we all have different um, mentors or coaches, and not everyone is aware that they have access to information to help facilitate them along the way.
I think there's several ways, but in one way, I think soldiers could improve is to find a mentor. And I didn't do that, when I was in the military, and I wish I would have. Not because I think I would have changed anything that I did in the military or or challenges, because I think over time, you learn, but it was maybe some hard lessons. But I truly believe finding a mentor, someone who inspires you, that you can look at or follow, that they have currently or they had, a successful career uh, in doing what you do. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the same military occupational skill set. Um, but I think having a mentor, is important. Or
Whose
a
responsibility would be, so say, for example, I see someone that I would like to mentor me. Would it be my responsibility to ensure that to make contact and to keep contact, or how would that mentor or what would that mentor relationship look like?
I think it goes both ways. I think it goes both ways. But I think the mentor has to know that the mentee wants it. I understand that people may ask for a mentor, but they also have to meet the mentor, the mentee, to meet the mentor at least halfway so that the mentor is not doing all the work. But it could go both ways. I mean, if that mentor really is invested in the mentee and vice versa, it is okay to reach out. Because, you know, the mentor don't know everything, but they have to, that mentee have to feel that open line of communication where, you know, maybe they can pick up the phone and just call that mentor. Maybe they can send an email. Hopefully it don't sit in the box forever. But but you know, where that mentor is available for the mentee. But I think again, it's all about communication. It goes both ways. So one shouldn't feel like they're leaning over more than the other. Because remember, if you ask for a mentor and that mentor has accepted the charge to be your mentor, he or she should be willing to do their part to help the mentee become developed, you know, and grow in their military career or even their civilian career. I mean, because you know, it doesn't necessarily be a mentor in the military, but you want a like-minded mentor. You don't want somebody who's never served in the military, has no understanding about what you do to be your mentor because you might be going down the wrong path. So that's one that I could think of. That's probably how, you know, being a mentor, you know, just being educated, just knowing your craft in the military or within your career, knowing your craft, knowing what it is you're supposed to be doing, professionally developing yourself, you know, through all the resources and tools that there are in the Army, and not waiting on somebody to give you or hand you what it is you need to be successful or to improve in your career. Sometimes you just,
I'm sorry, Sergeant Major, go ahead.
sometimes you just got to go get it. You got to have that initiative to go and get it. Because a lot of times, if you wait on somebody to improve you as an individual, you already missed the boat. Because the Army don't need somebody who's sitting around waiting. The Army needs leaders, soldiers that are taking initiative to go out and seek those opportunities.
What's been the best career decision you've made?
Oh, about four. Could I say joining the Army was probably
Yes, Sergeant Major, you can.
I can say that because that's probably the only career that I've had. No, but seriously though, the Army has, you know, the Army has been the best career decision I made. I mean, I enjoy serving in the military. Of course, if I did not, I probably wouldn't have served over 31 years. But the military done wonders, not just for me, but, you know, my family. You know, it has given me an opportunity to be able to do what I do today after retiring. Because it was one of the best decisions that I believe I've ever made. And I would do it again, you know. I probably wouldn't do 31 years, but I would do it again because it was great. I mean, Army values, all of those things, I got it, but I truly believe that I came in the Army with values and, you know, being a servant. So I think it just enhanced who I was as a soldier and as an individual in society, within the community, or who I have become, should I say.
Well, with that said, Sergeant Major, I really want to thank you for your time, for having this conversation with me, and also being my mentor and being available when I'm having difficult times within my career. It is truly greatly appreciated, and this was a pleasure. And I really thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to just share, you know, a conversation with you about the questions that you have for me. And I'm glad I had an opportunity to be here. And I'm glad to be your mentor because I think you're a great mentee. So I look forward to working with you in the future.
And I know a lot of people are not going to probably understand what I'm about to do, but Fridays are my favorite time of the week. And I usually do send out a video message to people or my contacts in my phone. I'm just going to do it during our conversation. So get ready. It's Friday. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Sergeant Major.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.